everyone, and welcome to this brand new episode of Christine Means Business. And I'm really excited because I have been taking time off for 3 weeks and it's the first time I'm working again. So I'm full of energy. And I'm really excited because, as you know, Christine Means Business is a podcast for online entrepreneurs, creative and coaches. And we really strive to combine strategy with the soul and the heart so that you create a love business and not a monster business. Both can be very successful, but we want to have you one that you really truly love. And today I have a guest who I think is brilliant to talk about exactly this kind of thinking. So with me, I have Michelle Cooper. And listen to her bio, like just the first sentence, it blew my mind this morning. So Michelle is the High Priestess of Profit. Like those 3 words, even High Priestess of Profit, it's 4 words actually, clash my mind. A spiritual gangster, CEO of Alchemy Accounting and Bookkeeping, a profit-first professional and author of several books. She took a small accounting firm in rural British Columbia to a thriving online business encompassing coaching and consulting. I love this because it's not the same thing. Speaking and writing while balancing the management and growth of a brick and mortar office. She has built a solid team of bookkeepers, accountants, tax professionals, and business coaches who support impact-driven entrepreneurs to have highly profitable, sustainable businesses while creating the peace of mind that comes from a solid financial foundation. Like, honestly, Michelle, I think anyone who's actually reading and picks apart your bio knows everything they need to know about business.
Well, I did have some help in writing that. Numbers are my jam, words are not. So
I get it. I have a copywriter for my stuff. I can't do it for the life of me.
Yeah. So thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk about everything we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's get started. I think both of us, we work with kind of the same crowd. You call it, intentional, passion-driven entrepreneurs. It's the same thing. Like the people that we work with, they really want to do something. They know exactly, they know where they want to get. They don't necessarily know how to get there. And what I find is one of the most difficult things that nobody really teaches you unless you come from an accounting background is the financials. And there is so much stuff that goes into this. So when I onboard a new client, I actually gift them one of my courses, which is called the Money Mindset Journaling Journey. It's quite a handful. And it's literally prompts on journaling about your money mindset, because you might think that that is completely irrelevant, but it really isn't. So I want to talk today about what should be the first step? Should the first step be ripping the Band-Aid off and facing your numbers, which is traumatizing on its own? And maybe you have a client story on that. Or should we start with a mindset piece first? And the interesting thing is, I think that a lot of people are not even aware of that piece. So what are maybe some steps that when you approach a new project that you found, okay, this kind of timeline, obviously it differs, but this is really something that I found works in a really gentle but powerful way to lay these foundational bricks.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like a both and situation, right? Like one thing doesn't kind of supersede another. A lot of times when clients are coming to us, they realize that they have a little bit of a financial mess or a bit of chaos going on. And they might have received some kind of notification from the government about past due taxes. They might have been declined for like a lending application, like a mortgage or a business loan or something, because they don't have the data, or maybe their credit rating isn't that great. And there's nothing really wrong with any of that. The problem is how they're thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
Like usually those people, what I try to tell them is usually when you're in that situation, it's because your whole focus has been on something else. So it's usually been on revenue generation, right? We're in business and we need to generate revenue. And so we're highly focused on that. And so all the other things, they get put aside because as human beings, we only have so much capacity, right? And we're like, I'll deal with that later. I'll deal with that later. And later doesn't come until there's some kind of like almost crisis situation, right? So often the clients that we work with, given that they're impact driven, they're passion driven, they have usually done some personal development work. So they are a little bit self-aware in varying degrees. So they might understand that they have a story around money. And so often I greet them with a little bit of like gentle coaching around like, what do you think about money? Like, how do you feel about all of this? And there's usually a lot of tears and shame.
Shame.
Shame's
I
a
was just saying,
huge
isn't
thing.
shame like the biggest elephant in the room when we talk about money? It's so sad, right?
Yeah. I say to people, shame is like wearing a lead backpack, and that shit will take you down, right? And so like, get it off of you. First step would be to hire somebody to help you, right? Like usually you can't figure this out yourself. You need a really good bookkeeper to sort through numbers. You need maybe a tax professional. There's some people that need to handle the technical aspect, and they're really good at what they do. So just let them do their thing. And for the business owner, it's work on your thinking, work on your mindset, understand your history, your relationship with money, understand the stories that have become ingrained in your brain and are now like living out in your experience, right? And don't judge yourself, right?
So
We all have
important.
stories.
And don't be afraid of judgment from others when you hire them. I think that is also paralyzing. I mean, when was it? In 2018, my whole business changed after I hired a financial coach. And one of the hardest things I ever had to do in my life was to show her all of my numbers, life expenses, business expenses, because I love spending. Like I love money. I love beautiful things, and I never had to think about it because I always had a job. I always had great revenue, without like just on autopilot, let's say. Obviously I worked for it, but that was so I don't want to, it was in the beginning, it felt disempowering until it changed into the most empowering thing in the world that allowed me to then claim my expertise, my pricing, and actually stop me from treating my business like, even though I didn't think I was treating it like a hobby, but in a way I was, because I didn't really look into the numbers, to taking it seriously and defend my pricing as well, saying, these are my living costs. I need to earn a certain something. I'm not doing this out of charity. I know what I can deliver. So yeah, but shame is huge. And I feel that is the number one problem when we talk about money.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It gets in the way of people having the accurate, detailed financial records. It gets in the way of people making progress. They move into self-sabotage. And it really is the big thing, like you said, the elephant in the room that that we try to work around and not deal with, but it's really the thing you need to deal with head on. And you will see an immense growth trajectory when you do that. I call it the magical art of tidying your money. Like when you allow yourself to be supported and you look at your numbers and really look at them with gratitude instead of shame.
Yes.
Great. This might not be exactly what you want to see. However, we can have gratitude for that and desire something different and desire something more, right? But being grateful for both the money in and the money out.
Yes.
And that's a huge thing. A lot of people can be really grateful for all the money coming into their business. And then they're like, damn you, phone company, I don't want to pay my phone bill. And it's like, you got to have gratitude for both directions of the money and be looking at where you're receiving money and where you're spending money, and does that actually bring you joy? Does it bring you happiness? Do you feel excited about that? And if you don't do it.
I agree.
Remove it.
And it's, I mean, a lot of it has to do with past trauma as well, you know, investment that maybe didn't pan out. And then we're like, I'll never invest again. And especially, why should I invest in a financial supporter? You know, like, I don't have money. This seems like the ultimate luxury, I feel.
Right.
When it's really the reverse. I always feel legal advice and financial advice should be, seriously, even before you have a business coach, those two should be the first one you should knock on, you know, whose doors you should knock on. And
absolutely.
And whoever I talk to, it's really through wisdom. I feel that people hire them, but it's never the first stop. So if anyone is listening, please don't stop spending it on another course. Like, get financial and legal advice first.
Yeah, it's really funny. I always see people who, like, they've ignored their finances for years, but they've got like a social media coach, and they've got like a this and a that. And it's like, you know, you need these are foundational pieces of your business. You have to be legally protected, and you have to file taxes.
Yes.
And you like, you know, it's
you
just
go to
how
jail
it
if
is.
you don't. Here's business.
And sometimes people say like, well, I can't afford that. It's like, you can't afford not to have that. And so if you can't afford that, then there's something wrong with your pricing, and that's an even bigger issue.
I agree.
So
totally
get that information for sure.
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree on this. So when we talk about foundations in business, right? What if we have someone who's like, okay, I kind of get it. It's kind of important. I don't even know where to start. For a business owner, if you had like a good old fashioned kind of cupboard or drawers kind of thing, what would you tell them should they put into each of these drawers? Like, what would be the foundations that they should maybe track, or maybe do a self-evaluation or audit on, so that they could get started? Like, even saying, okay, to keep it super simple, but here are like 3 things maybe that you should have in place that you will be really thankful for down the road.
Yeah, there's 3 key things. So this is a really good question. Understand where your money is coming from. So make sure that you understand your revenue streams. Now, you might be new in business, so maybe you only have one, right? But if you do have more than one, divide that out. Like, you can just use a spreadsheet if that's what you want to do, or I recommend software, right? But make sure you understand your different revenue streams. A lot of times when clients come to us, they've got this lump sum and it's called sales. It's like, well, what was that? Like, was it a course? Was it a program? Is it one-on-one coaching? Is it group? All of those things have different costs involved. So once you've divided out that income, you'll be able to see the percentage of your revenue based on the whole. And you might see that one-on-one coaching makes up 80% of your revenue. If you have a business coach and your business coach says you shouldn't be doing one-on-one coaching anymore, you need to be aware that that makes up 80% of your revenue, right? You can make that decision, but have awareness, like, be empowered around your numbers, right?
Yeah.
You might see that you make a whole bunch of money off of a course you made, and there's no more costs involved in that. It's super profitable, right? Throw some advertising money at it, make more money at it. But unless you divide up that revenue, you don't know, like, you don't have the information that's so important. The second piece really is, how much does it cost you to fulfill on your services? So if it's maybe you have a business where you have some coaches on your team and they deliver fulfillment services. So they coach your clients. How much do they cost? Maybe you have software that is used specifically for those clients. That's a cost. It's called cost of goods sold, right? Maybe you hold events or retreats, and there's hard costs involved in the delivery and the fulfillment of your services. Know what that is. Because if you have your total revenue, like for ease of math, we'll say your revenue is $100,000 and your costs like that are directly involved in the delivery of the service are 25, your real revenue is $75,000.
Wow.
That's what
Exactly.
your business has to spend on paying you, on paying everything else, and your taxes. So a lot of times people they think, oh, I made $100,000. That's what I have to spend. But they have this cost of fulfillment and that they're not really totally aware of the exact percentage, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
And
understanding that is key.
yeah, it's cash flow, basically, a word that I knew cash flow, but cash flow was like, kind of, to
Totally.
throw the money, but actually learning the difference between cash flow and what you have in your bank account is the most valuable lesson you can ever do. And I love how you gave examples, because when I go through and I do an intake with my clients, so we go through their PayPal subscriptions that you forget about. And suddenly once a year, you get this huge bill because it's automated, even if you don't use the software or webinar software or course or whatever anymore. So all of these things are things that, it's just not predictable, or it is predictable, but kind of people, it's out of mind. Oh, I just paid it and then I forget about it. But it's like, no. This is part of what you need to pay in order to make this happen. So don't subscribe to everything. Don't do payment plans on everything if you don't necessarily need it. Go with a free trial first. Or can you bootstrap it somehow? Keep it really simple. Do you really need a course platform? Can you just send it out via email? So, and that, having that cash flow idea, knowing all the bills that will come every month or throughout the year, dividing it by 12 months, knowing that I have to put that money aside, and that what I have in my bank account is not actually all of my money. Some of it is already destined to go out to somewhere else, really changed my perspective. And it helped me to raise my prices, because I knew, look, this is actually
it's interesting because you bring up a really good point, because the third thing would be to understand what's called your break-even expenses.
Yeah.
So these are what you're talking about, right? These bills have to be paid regardless of whether you have 0 clients or 100 clients. You still have to pay these bills. So knowing what that is. So if you have a brick and mortar, that includes your rent, your utilities, like those kind of things. If you're an online business, you'll have things like Zoom. You might have some other software that you use like Dropbox or other things like that, right? These expenses come out every month.
Yeah.
If you've invested in a coach, it would include your coaching. It doesn't matter how many clients you have. These things you have agreed, you have committed to these expenses. And so in accounting, they call it like your monthly nut, like there's lots of different words for it. I kind of call it your break even. Like until you've covered this, you haven't made any money.
Exactly. And that's just
right?
business. I mean, there's living expenses as well. And I often do that exercise as well, where I'm saying, do you actually know what your yearly taxes on your property are, or what your garbage bin costs, or obviously your insurance, all of these silly things that you just forget, but that will come flap into your mailbox every year. And, I remember having really scheduled a beautiful getaway, like a spa weekend, and then I got this horrendous bill it wasn't for taxes, but I think it was my car insurance or something like that, or house insurance. And I was like, oh God. So that money that I had allocated for my spa weekend, it was actually, okay, I'll have to pay tax for it. That's not happening anymore, because I'm like, okay, I know this will happen. I'm dividing it by 12 so that I know this little amount goes each month. And then I know what that is. And that's always why when I help my clients to fix their pricing, depending on where you live, you need to make more money than other people. If you live in a really expensive city like Paris or New York, or I don't know what else, like Zurich, your rent or your mortgage is going to be a lot higher than someone who lives in the sticks somewhere in Alaska or in Latin America or something like that, it's just going to be very different. So comparing really doesn't make sense because everyone's
Exactly.
situation is so different.
Yeah. Yeah. It's heartbreaking. Like we support clients across North America. So I have some clients who have really successful businesses. They live in California, and California has a really high tax rate, and it's a really high cost of living, right? And so their profit, like what's available to them, is not a lot. Whereas the same client who lives in Florida that has no state income tax and a lower cost of living is like rolling in the dough.
I know.
And they've got the same revenue and pretty much the same business costs, but they live in these different parts of the world that are very different.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you live in California, get out. Get out.
Move.
Move out of the state. There's a reason Nevada is so close.
That is really smart, actually. I mean, I'm in Luxembourg, so our tax is okay. It's still annoying, but it's not like horrendous. Like just across the border in Belgium and France, it's way worse. So I can't complain in that way. But you need to even know about this. Like honestly, before tax went out of my paycheck, I never had to worry about it. So the first time I was like, wait, 20%, I should put 20% of each sale I should put aside for taxes. Well, that's a lot of money. That's like, if I had,
right?
like 8 hours of coaching, 20%, that's a lot, that's like 2 hours, 3 hours that are just gone for the tax man, right? That sucks,
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So all of this is truly, truly, it's a necessity. And I love the 3 key pillars that you said. I think everyone needs to be aware of these and needs to know about that. So let's switch gears a little bit, because now that we went from all this number crunching, which I love, and I just told you before we started the interview, I'm in an interview process to have an analysis done of my funnels, where I'm literally asking for KPIs, where I'm like, okay, let's just numberize this. But I'm also very much into mindset, into soul work. And you actually have a really cool topic when I asked you what you want to talk about. And you said, is your mindset keeping your bank account small? So let's talk about that a little bit, because now that we have someone who's highly motivated, and they're like, okay, I'm going to do my spreadsheets. I'm going to be all ready. I'm going to figure out how much tax I need to pay, all of that. And we talked a little bit about the shame kind of thing, but how do you literally see the mindset piece manifest itself in keeping that bank account small? What do people do so that we can maybe shine a light on that and relieve that blind spot, so to say?
Yeah. Well, this is huge. And it's like, it affects, I don't know, pretty much everyone in different degrees, right? So I'll tell you a little bit of a story about myself, because I feel like it's a great way to demonstrate it, right? So I grew up in a commercial fishing family. So you had to work hard for money. There was this feast or famine cycle with, the season of fishing and all that stuff. I never went without, but, and we weren't poor by any means, but it was all up and down roller coaster, right? And my dad and my brothers worked physically hard for money. And so that gets imprinted in us, right? Like, it's like, when they talk about like animals, like wolves imprinting on people and stuff, like that's what happens. Those stories get imprinted in us and we start to live from that place. So what I found was my dad was adamant that I would go to university and I would have an office job and I wouldn't be working hard like he was. And so that's what I did. Numbers came really easy and I got really great jobs out of university, but I experienced them as hard.
So interesting, isn't it? Like,
yeah. And now I can only look back and connect the dots, right? So when we're in it, we can't see it, right? And I didn't have the self-awareness to understand this piece at the time, right? But I would make it hard. I would experience it as hard by overworking, So I would be the first one at my desk, the last one to leave at night, right? And then I'd burn out.
Yeah. Because
That
it has,
created a feast or famine cycle in money.
isn't it interesting? Because there's this one word that fits this perfectly, which is deserving. And I mean, I worked with so many coaches, and one I have on a retainer. I've been working with her for 3 years now. And I remember when we worked through my belief of I am deserving. And it was one of the hardest one to shake in a way that I'm not deserving. Like whatever happens, I need to make it hard and difficult and painful in order to be deserving. And I think it's,
Right.
as you say, we grow up like that. If you become a medical doctor, it's gruesome learning experience. As a resident, you won't get sleep. You have to work impossible hours. You have to learn a lot. Hence, you deserve being paid afterwards. Or any job like that, you know, you need to work really hard. It needs to be painful until you deserve it, which means if something's easy for you, you don't deserve it. It's not hard enough. Hence,
Right. So
you
you
don't
got to
deserve
make
to
it
get
hard.
paid for it, which is ridiculous. But it's, as you say, it's been generations and generations and generations. For some, it was academically hard. For others, it was literally physically hard. But it's always the pain and hardship equals recompense, like being rewarded.
Yeah.
And if that is not the case, you don't deserve to be rewarded. It's
Right.
insane. I just watched yesterday on Netflix, there's a documentary that's called This Is Pop. And they analyze why so many good songs come from Sweden, like the Backstreet Boys and even Britney Spears, and think all of that kind of 90s pop was written in Sweden. And even now, the best songwriters and producers come from Sweden. And they were investigating the secret. And in the end, they found it's this one word in Swedish, I don't remember, but it basically means that you don't brag. You never brag about what you do, or you can't say, you know, you always have to stay humble. And I get it in some extent, but to the other, I'm like, no. If you have fun, you
Yeah.
are absolutely allowed to enjoy it. You are allowed to feel deserving. And that, I feel, is new coding, you know, for us, for our children, without becoming entitled. It's really difficult.
Yeah. It's self-awareness, right? Like it's understanding how you're showing up, and humbleness, I think, is a really important word, right? I talk about gratitude a lot, and gratitude has been probably a game changer and lifesaver for me. Finding gratitude in the things that I don't prefer that are happening has been incredibly challenging at times. But my life is so much better for that. And I try, like, I have 3 teenage children. One's in her second year of university. Well, I guess she's still a teenager. And so I try to, like, you know, she's got a 4.0 GPA. She wants to be a lawyer. Like, she's like highly driven, perfectionist for sure. And it's like, your value doesn't come from this though, right? Your value,
Yes. It's so hard.
like, this is awesome. This is all great. I love it. It's great. Fantastic. You're going to do amazing things in the world. And you're valuable just because you're a human being on the planet.
Ugh.
Right.
Isn't that the most beautiful thing in the world, though? Like, it's very weird to us.
Right. Yeah.
And it's something nobody told us before. Like, even though it is implied, maybe, frankly, saying that out loud, I don't remember anyone saying that when I was.
No one said that to me growing up, ever. Like, I've always, until probably, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, 5 to 8 years ago, my value came from doing things for other people.
Exactly. Or career ladder, you know, like just the steps that you're given. So for anyone who's starting, I find you figure these things out as you are becoming an entrepreneur, because you have to begin this journey with yourself. So I think anyone listening to this is doing you a huge favor, because it's such a shortcut of collapsing time that we had to learn this thing. And it's obvious and it's simple, not easy. But I think it will change everything if you take it to heart.
Totally. I always say to people, entrepreneurship will force you to face every limiting belief that you've ever had in your entire life.
It's the
Like,
hardest thing. Like,
you
I
will
love
have to face it
entrepreneurship,
all.
but that part is hard. It's sweet, painful, you know.
Yeah, it's entrepreneurship is really a self-development exercise.
Yes, it is. I totally agree. All right, Michelle. Well, this has been amazing. And I know you came with gifts. So we
Yes.
have on your website, alchemyaccounting.ca. If people go to alchemyaccounting.ca/Christine, there is a little goodie for them. So what is awaiting for them?
It's an amazing little practice that I created. I call it a money date. I encourage people to have them weekly. It's a time where you start to develop and nurture your relationship with money. So
Beautiful.
you make it enjoyable, whatever that means for you. For some people, like for me, I light a candle. I love candles. I love incense.
One of
Right?
like 5 on my
Right?
desk, you
Me
know?
too.
Yeah.
Um, and have my favorite, drink, coffee, whatever it is, right? And I play music and I like really conscious of my resonance, like my vibration, right? And spend time with my money. I look at my revenue, I look at my bills, I pay my bills, I express gratitude, a little bit of journaling. So the gift is the money date little booklet, and it walks everybody through the process. And they can make a photocopy of it or whatever, and make a whole bunch of copies if they want, and do it every week. What they'll see if you commit to this and really enjoy it, like, don't make this like it's a money date for a reason. It's like going on a date with like the hottest guy ever, right? Or girl ever, or whatever you prefer.
Yeah, it's like he, she, they, we don't
Yeah,
judge.
whatever it is. And really take that time and have it be luxurious for you. And you'll see that you start to shift how you feel about money, which is what is so, so important, because our relationship with money is mostly our feelings about money. So it just helps to do that.
Beautiful. I am so grateful for this, for my people. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
And
welcome.
looking at your handles, I think most people will be able to find you when they look for Michelle B. Cooper.
Yeah.
So, or Alchemy Accounting, but I think most of them are Michelle B. Cooper. You will be able to find Michelle on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and also on Facebook, of course. We have all the links in the show notes, christinemeansbusiness.com/blog. So you will find the interview there. It will be on video, it will be on audio, and you will have the notes where it's basically a blurb of everything we talked about. So
Perfect.
I'm so happy. Like, I'm so glad I'm back, first of all. I'm really glad that this was
Welcome back.
Because it when you have to do something again to kind of remember why you're doing everything, when you had a break, and this is it. This is perfect. So thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you for your time, for your wonderful wisdom. I'm eternally grateful. And all you guys, check her out. If you need any support financially, then talk to Michelle, get in touch with her, let her know that you came through the podcast. And we will talk again in 2 weeks' time with a new guest. So I'm excited about that too. And don't forget to leave a wonderful review, get in touch if you have any questions, and to download the amazing free gift. So at alchemyaccounting.ca/Christine. And until next time, bye-bye for now.